official site for Spring is spring.io. I hope we already discussed this, right? So Spring has so many projects. Okay, Spring Boot is one out of them. Right? Spring Boot is just one out of them. But actually, when Spring started, we were talking right, Spring 2, Spring 1, Spring 3. So there is a slight version difference between Spring Boot and Spring Framework because Spring Boot is something new. This is not there since the Spring Born, right? So this is something new. So so that is the reason why whenever we are talking about Spring Boot, you see a different version history, right? So it's like 2, 2.1, 2.6, right? It's not like 4, 5, whatever we are discussing. The latest version for Spring Boot in the market is Spring Boot 2, not 1, right? So any project you are implementing newly, then you have to use Spring Boot 2. It can be 2.1.3 or 2.2.7 or 2.2.6, that is fine. Use use um, use the release version, not the snapshot. Okay. So when you go to the Spring Framework, you see a different version history in Spring Framework. Right, in Spring Framework, you see the versions like so like 4, 5. Right? So the latest version is 5.2.6. So Spring Boot is a kind of layer which build on top of the Spring Framework. Okay, so the underlying core concepts is again taken care by Spring Framework, all the container beans, right? So that's why we have two different documentations for Spring Boot and Spring Framework. So whatever we are learning is a combination of these two projects. Okay, combination of these two projects. So let me open these two together. Right, Spring Boot. Go to left, click on reference documentation. So this is what we're gonna use in our training. And go to Spring Framework, learn reference documentation, the version which is 5.2.6. Okay, yeah. So again, Spring Boot documentation looks a little different, and Spring Framework documentation looks a little different. So in Spring Framework documentation, you notice that core, testing, data access, web servlet, web reactive, integration, and languages. Right? So mostly the Spring Framework talks about modules, right? So the core module, testing module, database connectivity, which talks about JDBC, the data JPA, right? So whenever you want to write a RESTful web services, microservices, right? So you use web servlet or web reactive, which is the latest in Spring Boot, reactive programming in Spring Boot. And then any integrations you want to do like JMX, right? Some kind of integration you want to do, scheduling, caching, right? So then you use integration. But the problem with this Spring Framework, to write a simple RESTful endpoint, right, you need to do a lot of configuration. So if it is Spring Servlet 2.5 version, then you have to write a web.xml file, right? Anyway, you will see all those in the next upcoming sessions, right? So you have to do a hell lot of configuration to introduce a one simple say hello RESTful endpoint, right? So what Spring Boot does, whatever the configuration we're gonna write to develop any RESTful web service or any database connectivity or any web reactive program, right? Or any testing. So those will be automized. So the most things are going to be in Spring Boot are like automized configuration, right? Configuration automation. So you directly start writing the RESTful web service. You don't need to worry what is happening in the background, right? Behind scenes, what is happening, you don't need to worry, right? Just let's go to restaurant and order the biryani and just or pizza, just start eating it, right? So how he gonna prepare that and all, you don't need to worry about it, right? So how much struggle he gonna get do it to prepare that food that we don't need to worry about it. So you just start enjoying your food, something like that, the kind of benefit you're gonna get in Spring Boot, right? You just start directly focusing on business logic instead of focusing on configuring your application. But underlying architecture is still same. So if it is Spring Framework, let's just we call this as native, right? If it is native Spring, then we have to do the configuration for ourselves. It may take some time consuming process, right? It's little time consuming process. and little difficult also. But when we go to the Spring Boot, so it's like it's a piece of cake for you guys, right? You're writing any application with Spring Boot, so you don't need to worry about configuration. Okay, so it is just matter of adding few properties, right, in the properties file. Then you can simply connect it to the database. So you don't need to worry about loading the driver and all. So writing any RESTful web service, you don't need to worry about uh, configuring the servlet, nothing like that. You just directly start focusing on the business logic implementation. That is what is the main difference between Spring Boot and Spring Framework. So don't get confused. We have two projects. Okay. So first we have Spring Framework and Spring Boot is which is latest. But we do write all the projects in Spring Boot because we're gonna get benefit, right? So your development will be pretty fast. Okay. So now what till now whatever we discussed, right? Those things will not be available in Spring Boot because Spring recommends you to read Spring Framework material, right? Not Spring Boot, right? First you complete this so that you will get some idea how the things will work. Then you come to the Spring Boot and learn how the things will be automated, right? So the first thing is you first go to the Spring reference documentation and just read so that you will get an idea how the things will be working. Then you come to the Spring Boot and just read this documentation. Then you will get an idea how the things will be automated, right? Automatically things going to happen. So that we're gonna learn in Spring Boot. Yeah. Now till now, whatever we learn, right? It's part of Spring Framework core. So this is the complete the starting point, right? So this is what is the complete starting point. Cool. So here, just I gonna scroll down, right? Whatever, like we will be learning like 60 to 70% of the documentation, the concepts, right? So we will be like we almost like completed 50 to 60% because we can't complete everything here, right? So on top of this, there are some other concepts, but there are rarely used concepts, right? So if you wanted to learn more about any core concepts, right? Just refer this documentation. So here we started. So the container, right? So we already discussed what is a container in Spring. What is a container? Bean factory and application context, right? So creating any object to these interfaces is called container and overview. So you just let me just talks about class path XML application context and file system XML application context. If it is annotation based, then we do use annotation based application. Okay. So configuring metadata. So there are three ways you can do XML based metadata. So and also we have annotation based and Java based. And Java, I mean Spring Boot recommends this Java based because this is the latest, and going forward they will be focusing more on the Java based. Right? Any new functionality which they implement, they mostly release in the Java configuration. So this is how we do the XML configuration, right? This is how, yeah, instantiating container, which is nothing but creating an object for the application context, right? And there are a couple of examples, right? Yeah. So this is all about. See, here we have Groovy bean definition, right? Groovy bean definition, but we didn't cover this because to know this, you must know the Groovy, right? So our intention is not learning the Groovy, like learning the Spring with Java. That's why there are few concepts which we don't may not be covering, right? Which are not important or which are not in Java, right? So those things will not be covered, right? So next, using the container. I hope we saw this code, right? Context of get bean. So we pass the ID, and we also learned why we need to pass the ID, right? So whatever we are discussing, it's more than this documentation. Okay. Yeah. So bean overview. So what is bean and what are all the parameters you can pass in the bean? Okay. And some like giving the name to the bean, which is ID, like that you can bring. Okay. And the dependencies section, we discussed about what is dependency injection, okay, and constructor based dependency injection, right? Argument resolutions, like we discussed, right? First, second, index, and the reference. Yeah. So when you when you wanted to pass objects as parameters, then you use ref tag. If it is a string type or integer type, then you use value tag. Okay. Yeah. So you can say which type you are passing, indexes, right? Yeah, so you can give the parameter name also. This we already discussed, right? Then the next topic is setter-based dependency injection. So if the dependencies are getting injected through setter, then it's a setter dependency-based injection. So he asked the question, which one is recommended? We already discussed, right? When the dependencies are mandatory, right? That is one thing, and he talks about immutability, right? So when you want to achieve immutability, then we use constructor dependency injection. And the dependency resolution process, right? So the beans will be instantiated from the top to bottom of first. And when it is a constructor dependency injection, the dependent will get created first. But when it is a setter dependency injection, so there is no order, right? It will be injected in the top to bottom. So we have talked about circular dependencies, examples. So you could see some examples for dependency injection. Okay, so then we discussed about depends on, we discussed about lazy initializing being, right? Auto wearing collaborations, right? This guy, right? I mean, the Spring documentation talks about XML auto wearing also, but our focus is learning at auto wear, right? But anyway, these are the types. No, no auto wearing, default no auto wearing. We learn by name, by type, constructor, right? And the limitations, advantages. Then he talks care about. I mean, he talks about primary, right? Yeah, primary and the qualifier. The primary, and he also talks about qualifiers somewhere here. Okay. Then the method injection, right? Whenever you are mixing two scopes, these concepts, whatever we discussed yesterday. So one is lookup method injection, right? Yeah. So one is application context aware solution one. Second one is at lookup, okay? At lookup, uh, yeah. So you don't see the example here, but it's fine. Abstract, making abstract class, abstract method, annotating with at lookup. Okay, that is another way. And the next way is overriding, right? Yeah, lookup, at lookup. Yeah, the next way is overriding the method in the Java configuration. Right. So that is what is good. So we also learn about the bean scopes, right? Singleton scope, prototype scope. Okay. Uh, the same bean will be given to the multiple times, right? So this is a nice type. Only one instance is ever created, and this will be shared across all beans. Okay, and prototype means every time you call context or get bean or auto while, you will get a new bean will be created. Okay, yes. Yeah. Singleton with prototype bean, that is what is a method injection, right? Yes. So request scope, session scope, we will be talking in in web applications. Okay, that is it. That comes in web applications, right? Yeah. So this is all about the core documentation. Okay, I hope we are covering almost all everything, right? Whatever is there in the documentation. So we are covering almost all, except like 10-20% which are very very rare concepts, right? Other than those things, we are covering everything. So this is what is actual learning of Spring, right? That we are following the actual documentation. But now we are done with the core. Now it's time to learn, right? Some few core concepts of Spring Boot. Okay. So, but before we jump into the yeah, Spring Boot, right? Any questions? Again, just asking any doubts, any questions till now, whatever we discuss. Give me yes if you don't have any questions, then we will proceed further. Jagadish, Abhiram, Chintesh, Sharad, Chukudi, Venkat, Vichi. Any questions? Any doubts?
No questions, Sunil.
Okay. What about others? No questions?
No, as of now.
No, sir.
Okay. Then you answer my question. Okay, I have a question. How this auto wiring is working? Right? You don't have any question, but I have a question. Okay. So how does this auto wide is working? Whenever we are learning the annotations, right? That's our sixth session, right? Day 6. We are learning about annotations. Writing annotations is easy. Using annotations is easy. Annotation processing is difficult. Then how does this annotation is auto-wired annotation is working? who is processing that annotation at auto void annotation? Tell me. You don't have any questions. You are fully clarified, right? Then you must answer. I'm just kidding. Not
Yeah,
take
I think
seriously.
yeah, actually application context will
Okay.
inject the object, so whichever we are auto wiring.
Okay. So then tell me now, we have right our prime minister, right, chief ministers, right? Let's talk about prime minister, right? Yeah, let's assume that prime minister we have. Does prime minister go and ask an employee who is working in a government office saying that, hey, are you doing good, is everything looks fine, like that? He does go and ask an employee who is working in a small government office, or he directly talk to some collector or some MLA? How does the process, what is the process?
He
It's,
will talk to the hierarchy and
yes, right, you don't directly go to the down level, right? Then how does you expect that container will come and do talk to the bean level directly? Container is like a prime minister to our Spring application, and a normal bean, like it's like an employee, right? Like some kind of just like normal employee, like VRO or somebody, and then just telling that it's like right in some layer we have, right? So let's take an example in our office, right? So we have CEO, right? We are going to be a small software developer. The CEO will come and ask you, hey, is this code delivered? No, right? Who will come and ask you? Even sometimes manager itself won't come and ask. At least the team lead will come and ask, right? Is the code delivered or not? Right? We have some kind of hierarchy.
yeah.
Right? So senior, our CFO or our delivery head will not come and ask, is the code delivered or not? So the same way, AutoWide, it's not directly taken care by Spring Container. Okay. So we have a person who takes care about all these things called Bean Post Processor. Okay. Bean Post Processor. So not only AutoWide, you would have asked this question. Post construct, okay, pre-destroy. How does these annotations are working? Because we have different bean post processors to take care about these annotations. Okay, these annotations. So we have a class which takes care about auto wide. So that class is auto wide bean post processor. What is that? Auto wide bean post processor. So this class takes care about your auto-wired annotation, right? So we have init destroy bean post processor, which takes care about these post construct pre-destroy, right? If you have doubt, just go and see in your Eclipse, and just do a Control Shift T to open existing .class file, right? So just Control Shift T and paste this. See, we have an interface called bean post processor. As I already said, it's an interface. You could see there are n number of implementations for this bean post processor. So there is something called auto wide bean post processor, right? Auto wide bean post processor, annotation bean post processor. It's not auto wide bean post processor. Auto wide annotation bean post processor, which takes care about all your at auto wide annotations in your Spring application. Okay, so Spring Container will talk to this bean post processor, right? It will say that, hey, can you please execute, take care about all auto wide in my project? Yes, right? So this is a kind of like assigning the project, right? So this is like a project manager or delivery head who takes care about all auto wide in the project, right? So something you can consider container is like CEO or CFO or senior delivery head, right? Who represents our application. So it doesn't talk to a junior developer, and also a bean level auto-wide should be taken care by a particular manager or somebody. So you can just think this is the manager who takes care about that at auto-wide annotation, right? So at auto-wide annotation bean post processor who takes care about all those at auto-wide annotation. So similarly, you might see there is another method, another bean post processor called init destroy annotation bean post processor who takes care about your
Post
yeah pre-destroy post
registry,
construct
right? Post construct.
annotation. Okay, so let's look at this signature of this interface, right? It's going to have two methods earlier. Before Java 8 these were abstract methods, but after Java 8 this got changed. Now these methods converted into default methods, right? Default methods. So no abstract methods till now, right now there are no abstract method, so you can consider this as a marker interface. But it has two methods. One is the post process before initialization, post process after initialization, right? So the method naming convention itself will make you understand when these methods will get executed. Post process before initialization, right? So your before post construct or before after properties, right? Or before init method execution, next immediate to the constructor, and before your init method, this will be getting executed, right? Just before your um, just before your I mean after just after your init method execution, this after initialization block will be executed. So before initialization will be executed, next immediate to constructor execution, and just before initialization block. But after post process after initialization will get executed next immediate to your init method. So that init method can be configured in multiple ways, right? Initializing being at post construct, right? Init method in the XML or Java configuration. So in any way you do configure, then this will be executed next to that method execution. Okay, so now you got an idea, right? How these auto wires, right? So because you would have been asking this in day 6 we understood, right? Annotations, right? What is the day 6 topic? Annotation. So on that day we were talking about annotations. We will write it first, we will use it, but it has to be processed separately, right? It has to be processed separately. There is no exceptions for Spring. Even Spring also wrote, right? Auto wide annotation bean post processor, right? Annotation bean post processor who takes care about it, it auto wide annotation. So similarly, we have init to describe bean post processor to take care about pre-describe post construct. So whatever the annotations you are using, those will be processed somehow, right? Otherwise those annotations will not be work, right? Yes. But anyway, this is all about kind of interview question, right? Somebody might ask you. That's why I just want to highlight that. Okay, now let's come back to the Spring Boot, right? Spring Boot. Yeah, let's look into the doc. So there are multiple sections we have. So documentation overview will tell like what are all the things are present in each level. So let's directly go to legal means some legal information. So documentation overview. So it talks about in each section what they cover. So let's go to the getting started section, right? Getting started. So first it says about yeah, how to install the Spring Boot, the system requirements, right? So first you install the Java, then install the Maven, right? How do you install the Maven? Add the parent tag, right? And add the dependency startup, right? So this we already know, right? With this we already know. Then if you wanted to upgrade from older version to the newer version, then you have to do this properties migration and writing your first Spring Boot application. I think we already developed our first Spring Boot application. Did we do or not? Are you everybody completed your first Spring Boot application?
Yes.
Yeah. What about others?
Yes, Chandra.
Yes.
Abhiram, Chintesh.
Yes.
So you know all these steps, right? Creating the POM and adding in the parent and adding the class for dependencies, which are nothing but starter, right? Writing your first code. So this talks about, I mean, they directly take you to the MVC level, but we didn't do that. We started with the main method application, right? Simple main method application. But anyway, that's why you see some kind of difference here. Okay, so we will discuss this in the future when we talk about RESTful web services, right? So that time we will talk about. Now let's do with everything is a main method, right? Yes, main method, running example, right? Running example, and I will cover this in the next few minutes, right? Creating executable jar, right? Except this executable jar file, we learned everything in the getting started section. Let's go to the next topic, right? Using Spring Boot. So here also few things we already learned, right? So how you gonna use Maven? It's a duplication. Let's go to inheriting the starter, right? Adding the starter in the parent. Adding it in. It's like a duplication. He was just telling how to use like, we learned already as part of first my Spring Boot application itself. Yes. So yeah, there is a section called structuring your code. Okay, structuring your code. This is very, very important. Okay, so whenever you are writing your Spring Boot application, right? Whenever you are writing your Spring Boot application, what you should do, let me open a project so that it will be more clear for you. Okay, so the first thing, very, very important thing, don't create, right? Don't write your Spring Boot application without package. So when they say default means doesn't include a package declaration, right? So don't do that. That is a very, very bad practice. Okay, so anytime you write a Spring Boot application, your Spring Boot main class should present inside some package. Don't create Spring Boot application without package declaration. Don't create that. Okay, so that is the first rule which you have to remember. And the second rule is how to structure your project. Okay, there must be some structure we need to create a Spring Boot application, right? So let's see. Look at this example. So let that example loaded. So for example, if you create a package structure, something like this, right? Com example my application, right? Com example my application. So here you have to keep your Spring Boot application class. The main application class should present in the root package, right? Root package. Now my application has two modules. One is a customer. So inside customer, you have to keep all the customer related classes, right? So if you want to keep a customer controller, then you can keep inside customer, right? Customer.controller. And if you want to generate a service, then customer.service, right? Something like that. If you have one more module called order, then order file should be kept inside order folder. So make sure your Spring Boot application will always be on the root package, right? I think this is loaded. Yeah. So look at this package structure very carefully. Okay, so is it visible to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so here we have our Java files, here we have our resource files, here we're gonna have our test class files, right? So again, this is like a individual, if you just expand this source, again, you see the same structure here also. Here we will get the final output files. Here we have our Java, and here we have our Maven dependencies. So till now it is clear, right? Till now it is clear. This pom.xml is there. This is for Maven purpose. Okay. Now let's expand this src main Java, right? Src main Java. Now focus this, right? So this is what is the project structure, right? Com Spring Boot MSK mobile, right? Mobile. So till now, Com Spring Boot is a kind of domain name, right? So Com Spring Boot is a kind of domain name. So this is the sub module. Inside this, my project is a mobile service, right? Mobile. So we are going to write a microservice for mobiles. That's why the project name, right? That's why the project name is mobile. So this is what is my root project. So here I should keep my Spring Boot application. So this is what can be considered as a root. Then here we should keep our Spring Boot application. Okay. And now inside this, I should create subfolders, like so that all the controllers should kept inside controller folder, and all the service classes should kept inside service. All the exception classes should kept inside exception, and all the model classes I should kept in the model. So if I have database integration, we will have one more folder called repository. repository. Then, so something like this. If you have some other third-party service integration, you might see one more folder called integration. But they should always should be inside mobile, right? So you must create some kind of hierarchy in your Spring Boot application. And now check. We have our main application class in the root folder or not, right? So here I kept my Spring Boot application. Spring Boot application. Okay, so this is what is the best practice, right? Don't do that. Okay, mobile dot boot, right? For example, yeah, if I create something like this, right? So my configuration is present inside mobile dot boot, right? My configuration is present inside mobile dot boot, and this is not considered as a root folder, right? Because inside boot we don't have controller exception, right? So we have siblings. Now we have siblings. We don't have hierarchy. So this is a bad practice, right? Adding your main class into a separate folder is a bad practice. Your main class should always be in a root folder, right? So that is what they are talking about. Okay, so that is what they are talking about in the documentation. So never create a Spring Boot application without package declaration, which means this one, right? The line number 1. So never create without package declaration. If you write your Spring Boot application, it's a very worst practice. Don't do that. Always give a package, and whenever you are giving the package, you must follow, right? You must follow some rules, right? That is what is the best coding practices, and you're gonna get the standardized code. You're gonna write some standardized code. Okay, so these things we have to keep in.
Here, like he mentioned, like for each entity, like customer. Here,
No,
like
yeah, he's not talking in a microservices perspective, right? So he's talking in a different perspective. But in the microservices, we have a separate project for customer, we have a separate project for order. So now you see COM example application, my application. There you have customer application. Inside that you see my application dot customer. So this is one project, and another project is these 3 plus this. Okay. So in microservices, we never mix two components, right? It should be an individual, like it should be an individual module. When we say an individual, it should be written in individual, tested individually, deployed individually, right? There is no dependency with any other module, right? So if you do add these two, right, now we have some dependency, customer with order, right? If you just do a order code change, then your customer module also getting dropped, right? Then it is not a microservice, right? So microservices actually an architecture, which is nothing but an architecture. So we're gonna use that architecture to implement microservices. Okay, so yeah, next topic is configuring the classes. We already learned, right? At configuration, at components can, at import resource. We already completed all this. Next, yeah, this topic, auto configuration alone, I will cover when we write our first RESTful web service. Okay, I'm just parking this concept number 4. I'm just parking aside, because now you will get confused. What is this auto configuration? Once we write our first RESTful web services using Spring Boot, right? That time I will cover you, and then you will get better idea. Okay. Yeah. Then next go to the dependency injection. Okay, so this is not a good place to read about dependency injection. The best documentation to learn about dependency injection is Spring Core. We already cracked this entire topic, right? So you can just skip this, right? You don't talk anything other than this, right? You just directly show an example of auto-wire. You don't say constructor in there, set a dependency injection construct. No, you directly use the auto-wire in Spring Boot, right? So this is not like full information won't be available in the dependency injection section for with respect to Spring Boot, right? So we can skip this, and the next one is at Spring Boot application.
Only for me, your voice is not audible. It's like not. Sometimes it is good, and sometimes I'm hearing your voice very low. Is it same for everyone or only for me?
Not sure. What about others? Am I audible clearly?
now it is clear. Sometimes it is a bit voice is low.
Okay.
But it's okay maybe.
Yeah, then I will speak a little loud. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we already learned about Spring Boot application annotation, right? Yeah, running your application, right? So there are multiple ways you can running from an IDE. That's what we are doing since day one, right? Right click, run as Java application. That's what we are doing it. Okay. So there is another way also we can run our application. Okay. Yeah. So this I will cover now, right? Running application. The developer tools also I will be discussing when we write our first RESTful web service. Okay. So these two topics, auto configuration and developer tools, we will discuss whenever we are writing our first RESTful web services. So other than this, we are almost done with the uh, our using Spring Boot documentation. So packaging your application, so which is nothing but how you gonna package your application for the production. So that will be covered now in your running your application. Okay, so once I complete this, only the two topics are which are missing is the auto configuration, and the next one is the developer tools. I will cover these two in Spring MVC, right? Spring MVC, Spring Boot MVC. Whenever we write our first RESTful web services, I will let you know what about this auto configuration and development, right? So the only topic which is missing is how to create a packaged application and how to run. Okay, yes, we will discuss this and close this documentation, right? So yeah, so with this we have completed two sections, right? One is getting started, documentation overview and legal, they are not considerable. Getting started and using Spring Boot. So then once we complete this, then we will directly jump into the Spring Boot features. Okay, yes. So yeah, so right now we are running from an IDE, right? So whenever we do write a Spring Boot application, we just directly right clicking on the IDE and just saying run as, right, run as Java application. But how do you run your Spring Boot application on dev environment or QA environment and production environment, right? So how you gonna do that? Okay, so we can't, I mean, we don't have any IDE, right? So you can't run it by right clicking on it and do, right? So most of the times your dev or QA or any other environment, so mostly it's like Linux environment, right? Linux, not Windows operating system. It is a Linux, so we don't have any UI for that, right? It's like full of commands. It's going to be full of commands you're going to execute it. So first of all, how do you going to run, right? So what we need to do and how to run, right? Those two sections we're gonna learn. So first, what you should do, you have to convert your Spring Boot application, right? You have to convert your Spring Boot applications into an executable jar file, right? So it's not like this project, right? So there is a jar file which you create, and you can run that jar file using Java command, right? So in the real time, what do? We do something like this: Java -jar, and if your application name is like Spring Boot -demo.jar, right? So this is your name of your jar file. So you have to use Java -jar command, right? So there is no difference whether you run it a standalone Spring Boot application or you run it from the Docker. Also, it's going to be the same command, right? When you wrap your application inside a Docker container, we're going to run the same command, Java-jar command. So we need to create, right? The first step is creating an executable file, then the running using Java command. We're going to see these two things, right? So how do you going to create an executable jar, right? How do you going to create an executable jar file?
Using Maven.
Yes, exactly, right? So we're going to use Maven, right? One more time, we will take help from Maven. Then we do add a plugin, right? We do add a plugin. So let's go to the documentation and see what is the plugin. So not only Maven, right? As we already discussed, right? Maven and Gradle, all these build tools have a plugin, right? Plugin to generate an executable jar file for your Spring Boot application. So whenever you want to package, right? First creating. So you're running from IDE, right click, run as Java application. Running from packaged application, you're gonna create this jar file, executable jar file, and you're gonna run it by using Java-jar command. So first you have to create an executable jar file. How do you gonna do that, right? You're gonna do it by adding a Spring Boot Maven plugin, right? Maven plugin, not this. Yeah, so using Spring Boot manual plugin, this is right. So under build tag, plugins, under build tag, plugins, plugin, right? Under build tag, plugins, you have to add a plugin. Which plugin you have to add? ORG Spring Framework Boot. ORG Spring Framework Boot is a group ID, and the artifact ID is Spring Boot manual plugin. Spring Boot manual plugin. But I have a doubt actually because we are already inheriting, right? We are already inheriting Spring Boot parent. So when a plugin, Maven plugin is required for all the Spring Boot applications, why does that configuration, right? Why does the Maven parent can't add it? Why we need to add it explicit, right? Why I should remember all these things? Why should I remember all these things? And why should I add? Let's see, every Maven plugin, Spring Boot plugin will have this. But let's go to the parent, right? Let's delete this for now. Let's delete this for now and go to effective form. Okay. And now let's go to the down somewhere. So check whether we have Spring Boot Maven plugin added or not, right? So we'll do a file search, right? We'll do a file search. Yeah. If you use Spring Boot parent form, you need to add only the plugin. There is no need to configure it unless you want to change. Okay. So let's see this. Right? It's been already added in the Spring Boot itself. Right? So if you are, it's been already added in Spring Boot parent, right? So you no need to add it, right? In sometimes you see in your form, in your Spring Boot form.xml file, this snippet. So this is not required, right? So Spring Boot can understood this. Hey, this is a common requirement. Every Spring Boot application should need this Maven plugin. So why can't they add this in the parent, right? They already added it. So adding this snippet is not required. You automatically get this plugin added, right? Your configuration will automatically get this plugin added just because our project is a child of Spring Boot parent project, right? Our project is a child of Spring Boot parent project, so we no need to add it, right? Then you can ask me, when you no need to add, then why you are highlighting? When it is a default configuration, right? Why you are stretching a lot and taking 2-3 minutes to teach this? You can fastly complete in 30 seconds or 20 seconds, right? Why we are saying that, oh, it's not required, but it is important. No need to configure, but why it is important, right? So I'll tell you why I'm telling you. So in our slide 3, I asked you to develop a Spring Boot application, right, by using this snippet. So if you, there are two approaches to create a Spring Boot project. One is with parent and another one is without parent. So when you create without parent, right? For example, if you don't use the parent farm, most of the times we do use it, but there is a possibility you can create, right, your Spring Boot application without parent farm, right? Which means you didn't try this, right? Which means you didn't try this, right? So this is also one possibility, right? Now let's go and add this in our form.xml file, right? Remove this parent. Now let's go to the form.xml file. Let's remove this parent tag. Now my application is not Spring Boot application because we are not inheriting. Just go to the, yeah, now the Maven dependency section also delete it, right? So what should I do? I should add this dependency management, right? I should add this dependency management. So now my configuration, now my project becomes Spring Boot project, right, without parent form. But the problem here is I don't get any plugin, right? I don't get any plugin. So whenever you do choose this kind of approach, right? Whenever you choose a different approach, then you have to do add, right? You have to add that plugin. So most probably we don't do this, right? This is, even though we are doing in the companies, that is going to be one time check, right? In your project, you might have seen, right? Instead of extending Spring Boot starter project, you might extend MSK, right? I asked you to do this MSK starter page, right? So this works fine because my MSK starter parent is a child, right? So there I add this dependency management, right? So I never talk like parent Spring Boot and I add this dependency management in my own parent, right? So automatically going forward in your company, any project, right? You could see these kind of thing, right? Instead of extending from the Spring Boot starter project, in Spring, in some of the project we do extend, right? We do extend from, yeah, we do extend from,
Parent project.
yeah, parent project. Yes. Okay. So yeah, so even though we are not adding that Maven plugin, even though we are not adding the Maven plugin, now for my project that plugin is available. So whenever I do right click run as Maven clean install, whenever I do run as Maven clean install, right? So in the life cycle, you see first clean will be executed, right? First resources, validating. Yeah, this is resources, clean plugin, resources plugin, compiler plugin. Next pack test compiler. Yeah, some surface plugin. Yeah, now test cases are running. Fine. No test cases. Build a success, right? So here my Maven jar plugin. After that, my Maven install plugin got executed, right? Maven install. Then after my Spring Boot Maven plugin is not added, right? The Spring Boot Maven plugin is not added. So as per the documentation provided with Spring People, there is no need to configure it unless you want to change. You need to add only the plugin tag. You need to add only the plugin tag. Let's just copy paste this. Okay, so just put a close tag. And this is not possible, we can't give an empty, but let's try. Okay, so now there are, yeah, now there are two. Okay, let's add this. You see, we need to add only the plugin. There is no need to configure it. Or we just need to add the plugin, or we need to add this plugin section. Okay, let's go ahead and run now. So in life cycle, you do see there is one more extra life cycle will be covered. Spring Boot Maven plugin, right? You do see Spring Boot Maven plugin will be printed on the console. So after doing that, let's go to the, yeah, after happening that, right? Let's go to the target folder and you see the magic. Yeah, Spring Boot Maven plugin is covering now. Yes, yeah. See, replacing main artifact with the repackaged archive. Replacing main artifact with the repackaged active the archive. So what we should do, just refresh the Spring Boot. Now let's go to the target. See, there are two jar files got created, right? Let's go to the file system. Right-click properties. Go to the target folder in the file explorer. So now you could see there are two jar files are created. One is with the small size, right? Originally with the like 5 KB, and the another one in some MBs, right? So it's almost like 7 MBs. So when you extract this fat jar file, right? Fat jar file. You could see there are so many jar files, right? There are so many dot class files will be wrapped inside. Actual application is 5 KB, but it got generated, right? The final output jar file got generated as 7 MB because it is an executable jar file, right? So it will run individually. So whenever you wanted to run your application, you don't need any dependencies. You don't need any dependencies. You just blindly, right? You just blindly run this by using Java command. So right now on my machine, I have Git Bash installed. That's why I'm just using this directly. This is nothing but a command prompt, right? So you just go to CMD, right? Windows will always defaultly will have command. So I'm just using Git Bash command. So other than that, there is no difference, right? By using Git Bash, we can execute Linux commands also. That's why I prefer this. Okay. Now in Linux, how do you see what are all the files are present inside this folder? ls-lrt. So it will list out all the files in the current folder. So in dash, what command we use? dir, right? dir. So it will list out all the all the files which are all the files and folders which are present in the current folder, right? So Windows Git Bash supports both command executions. You can execute Linux commands on Windows by using Git Bash, right? From Windows 10, we have this feature. So from Windows 10, you can execute Linux commands even in Windows, right? So by using Git Bash. So I just prefer using Linux commands, ls-lrt. See, now we have these files, right? So now let's execute this command, right? This jar file without using ID. So first let's go and verify that the Java is installed or not. Now, of course, we do install Java. Program files, Java, JDK 1.8, right? Bin. So here we will have Java, right? So this is what is the Java command which we're going to execute. Just copy this path, put it in the notepad place, right? So actually we have some space, right? In program files, we have some space. Then you should use Java command. Okay. So if you don't keep it in the double quotes, then we can't execute this Java command, right? Java-jar. Because why I'm doing this, why I'm giving full path? Any idea? Why I'm not directly executing Java command?
Maybe Java is not in the class path
Exactly right.
environment.
Yeah. So Java not configured as environment variable, right? Java not configured as environment variable. Then that's why I'm giving the full path. If you add the Java in the environment variable, then you no need to give this full path, right? So this is what is my Java command, Java-jar, and what is my Spring Boot application name, which is created here is target folder. This is what our Spring Boot application name, right? So just go ahead and paste it, right? .jar. So this is the command which we have to use. Okay. Now your Spring Boot application is going to be started, right? So this is how, see, the message got printed, it uh, exited, right? So it's a standalone application. If we have a server, then it will be alive, right? If it is we have a server, then it will be alive, and the same command we're going to execute even on our Docker also. Whenever you are going to deploy your application inside a Docker, it's going to be same Java-jar command. And this is how we do deploy our Spring Boot applications in any environment. It can be dev, production, or non-prod, wherever it is. We do follow the same structure, right? So there are multiple ways you can run your application. One is running from an IDE. So this is what the developers will do. But when we go for the real-time deployment, we don't do that, right? We don't have an IDE installed. So we do create an executable jar file, right? So to create the executable jar file, you have to add this plugin in the pom.xml, right? In the pom.xml file, just run your maven command clean install. Then there is a fat jar file, right? Some MBs in size. Why it's in a big size? Because it's going to have everything wrapped, right? It's going to have all the dependent jars, executable jars, everything will be wrapped inside the jar file. You just copy the jar file there into wherever you want to, right? And you just deploy, right? Even you can copy the jar file into some cloud, AWS EC2 instance, right? Or Google cloud computing system, and install the Java and run this command. What will happen? Then your application will be deployed in a cloud environment. Right now we are deploying on a local machine. The same thing, we're going to do it as a standalone application, standalone deployment. To copy into EC2 instance and run Java-jar command. If it is a containerized application, then you do write some Docker file. There you install OS and Java, and then finally you run the same command, Java-jar. Okay. So this is another way of running your application, right? So this concept is it's going to be discussed here, running your application, right? So there are multiple ways. One is running a packaged application, Java-jar, running from an IDE, right click and run as Java application or Spring Boot application. So using Maven, right? But directly Maven is by using Maven also we can run this, but we don't do this, right? Right? The same way how you have Maven to run a command, you have the same command for Gradle also. But anyway, we don't do that. Okay. But anyway, we don't do that. So as I already said, developer tools will be covered. Developer tools will be covered in the next. When we discussed Spring Boot MVC. Okay. Any questions? So this is how we're gonna run it. But anyway, yeah, once we will try, if possible, we will try to deploy one example into AWS EC2 instance with Docker. But anyway, that is an extra thing, right? And that won't come into microservices development. Okay, but it's a developer responsibility, right? Creating an executable jar file responsibility is a developer. But anyway, this is going to be happen again by Jenkins server, not by individual person, right? I think we already covered, right, where the as part of life cycle scope itself. I told you guys where actually from where we actually deploy our code into dev and QA into production, right? We will run our Jenkins server, right? So there the actual executable file, jar file, will be created, that will be uploaded into Maven remote repository. From there we will take it and we will put it, get it deployed in the dev environment, right? If you have containerized application deployment, then you actually get it deployed, right? You actually get it deployed inside a Docker container, right? So that is all about the deployment plan. Okay, but it's your responsibility, right? Configuring this Maven plugin, it's a developer responsibility in the form.xml file. Okay, so yeah. And one more thing, yeah. So with this, we are almost done with this getting started. These two topics I will cover in developers tools and auto configuration. And then the next topic is Spring Boot features, right? Next documentation is Spring Boot feature. So the first they talk like Spring startup failure, right? So we already discussed this. If it is a native Spring application, you don't get any messages, right? You don't get any message like application failed to start. So what you get? Exceptions, right? Exceptions. So the kind of difference between Spring Boot and native Spring application, if anything goes wrong, you get an exception. If anything goes wrong in the Spring Boot application, you get this message printed, application failed to start, and it shows some kind of description, and it try to give some kind of suggestion to that problem, right? For example, embedded servlet container failed to start. Whenever we are writing our first RESTful web services, we do use server. If you try to run the server on same port, right? If you try to run the Spring Boot application 2 times, right? First time it will get success, second time it will get failure, because already on this particular port 8080, right? So the default port is 8080 for Tomcat server. So for Tomcat server, default port is 8080, and if you try to run the application for 2 times, first time it will get success, second time you will get this error, right? Saying that uh, uh, already port 8080 was already in use, right? It will try to give some suggestion also. Either you stop the process already running on 8080, or configure a different port. Either you have to stop existing application which is using the port 8080, or stop use a different port to run this application, right? So in Spring Boot, the application startup issues are going to be errors, not the exceptions, right? Errors, not the exceptions. So that is all about startup failure. Next topic is lazy initialization, right? We already discussed as part of being lazy initialization. So if you wanted to make your Spring Boot application, you have to configure this property. You have to configure this property. Okay. Then the next topic is customizing the banner. So which is nothing but every time you run your application, right? How many number of times you run your application? What is happening? So, oh sorry, if I execute this command, I executed a different command. So every time we run our Spring application, so there is some kind of message, right? Like Spring Boot, and what version we are using. So this is what we call it as banner. You can still customize your Spring banner. You know, it's pretty easy, right? Instead of printing Spring, you can print your name, right? You can print your name, or someone's names, right? Most probably we don't print our names in project, we do print project name, right? So if you develop any banking application, e-commerce application, right? So then we will print that particular project name instead of printing our name or Spring name. But how can we customize this, right? How can we customize this? It's pretty easy, you know. It is just matter of adding a banner.txt in resources folder. It is just matter of adding a banner.txt. So I already have some banner.txt in one of my existing projects. So let me go and get that. It's in E Drive Spring Boot code workspace. Yeah, I think I have added that in the login. SRC main resources. Here we have the banner.txt. Let's go to our project, right? And just copy that in the SRC main resources. So this is my banner. Okay, you will. This is my son name, right? Just I want to print this name while starting up my Spring Boot application instead of printing Spring, right? So this is my banner, but here you can keep anything. You can keep your name, right? Your friend's name or your ex girlfriend's name, right? So any name you can just put it here and just run your application, right? Spring Boot application. So while you are running your application, right? Anything, it's any name also, like our Kim Mama name also you can put, right? North Korean president, right? You can keep Kim Mama name also. When you are starting your application, that name will be printed, right? So here I just put my son name, so that will be printed. Yes, instead of printing your Spring application also. If you just package your application and run it, right? If you just package your application as an executable jar file, so I should just come out of this folder. Otherwise, the target folder will not be get deleted. Yeah, I think it, yeah, it is. I should close this window and I should retry. Okay. Yeah, so now that target folder got deleted. Right now, application will be packaged into an executable jar file. Good. Now let's go to this path, right? Target. Go to that location. Just right click, keep dash here, right? So right now we are here. Just execute this command. Now instead of printing Spring, so I should go inside target folder first. And now execute the command. So instead of printing Spring, so whatever we configure, right? So you can even configure someone names, right? Your name. You can just try this with your name, right? Just customize the banner. So how do we get this, in this format? Actually, just go to banner customization example in the Google, right? So I just do this, right? Spring Boot banner customization, and I use MKN. Right, in this example, he provided to generate our own customized banner, right? If I want to generate something, just click ASCII art Java. Just you copy paste this code into your local, and you can give your name, right? So this supports up to 4 characters, right? So here I'm using 5 characters. So I just you just needs to increase this width and height, right? So this is the width and this is the height. So you just increase it and you give your name. Okay, I'm just pinging on the Zoom chat. You just take this as a reference and you just generate your name, right? Going forward, anytime you run your application, right? You just have to run. Your name has to be printed instead of printing Spring or my name, right? Yeah. Somehow this chart is not opening. Can somebody ping on the chart? Let me try command. Yeah. Are you able to ping me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Link to the lecture.
Not getting any ping. Okay, fine. I'll email you guys. Okay, I'm just I'll keep this aside. Okay, you just today's assignment is printing your name. Printing your name while starting your Spring Boot application. Okay, that is what is gonna say. So with this, we are done with the customizing banner, customizing Spring Boot. Okay, so we have some Fluent Builder API, right? Which like dot we call it. Okay, we will use this in the future, right? I think we already used this in the while we are writing our streams, right? Like we wrote first one example using Stream API, like identifying the even numbers in a collection and doubling it, right? Sorting it. That time we actually used this chaining mechanism. Spring Boot also supports that. Okay, yeah. So with this we are done with the basics, right? So all these are different topics, but I gonna focus on this externalized configuration, right? Next important topic is externalized configuration. I can guarantee you that without externalized, so with this we are done with all the Spring Boot core concepts. Okay, so now, yeah, now
I mean,
it's
here, like Fluent Builder API.
mm.
So, like, is this implementing a functional interface?
No, actually, instead of writing Spring application dot run, you can also do the like in this way. So like that, these guys will talk about. But for us, we know, right? Spring Boot application dot run is itself is fine. Okay, so we don't add this, we don't use this in the real time project, right? If you wanted to set the banner off, right? For example, now I don't want to print it Spring, I don't want to print it UN also. So how can you set that banner off? So you can use this clear type, like banner mode app off, right? So no banner will be printed. Okay, but we don't do that. Most of the times we don't do that. So that's why I'm not focusing much on the Fluent Builder API.
Okay.
So this topic is very important. Not complicated topic, easy topic only. But like we have so many approaches. Actually, the problem with this externalized configuration is just see there are 17 ways, right? There are 17 ways you can load a properties file into Spring Boot application. So I will cover like 6-7 types out of all this, right? So most probably in your project you would be doing the same thing, right? So it's like we have 4 to 5 slides only for external configuration, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 6 slides we have. So we gonna learn like around like 7 to 8 ways how we gonna load the properties file into Spring Boot application. I'm not talking about native Spring application. I'm talking about Spring Boot application, right? Spring Boot application. So Spring Boot has a default support, right? There are few properties files, YAML configuration files will be loaded automatically. But before that, yeah, it's a very important for project. You know, I could guarantee you that without externalized configuration, you can't write. I mean, most of the projects like almost 60 to 70 percentage of the projects use this concept. Okay, so externalized configuration. So first try to understand what the difference between okay, yeah, difference between YAML file and properties file. Okay, then we will try to understand what is the default configuration and how we gonna do that in Spring Boot. Okay, let's try to understand the difference between YAML configuration and properties. Okay, the people who came from the development background, right? The people who has work experience in Java. Okay, I'm talking about Spring Boot, that's why I'm talking about Java. So the people who came Java background, right? Who has Java background, who came from Java experience, right? Development experience, they prefer using properties file. Okay, they prefer using properties file in the configuration. Yeah, the people who came from the background like DevOps, right? Any Kubernetes, Docker, right? Jenkins, right? Those people prefer using YAML configuration. Okay, so which one you feel comfortable, just go ahead, right? There is no performance differentiation, there is no um, there is no memory wise differentiation, there is nothing like that. Which one you feel comfortable, just go ahead and do that configuration. As we are Java guys, we're gonna focus more on the Java, right? Properties file configuration, but we have equivalent YAML configuration, right? So I mean the people who doesn't have much experience on the Java code, so who are new to properties, right? For them, YAML configuration is recommended. Start with the YAML configuration. Even I suggest that. But as we are already working on Java since a couple of years, and we know how the Java has support, inbuilt support, right? So there is a Java file in for properties in Java, right? What was that? Java.util.properties, P capital, right? Properties. So any properties files you configure, that will be loaded into this class object, right? So Java has inbuilt support for properties. That's why we feel familiar, right? But there is no difference between properties file using a YAML configuration. So the configuration looks a little different, like how we have XML configuration, Java configuration, something like that. It looks a little different, but both are same. But if you if you're new to Java, new to properties file, then start with the YAML configuration. Okay. Yes. So and Spring supports properties file configuration. A bit more than the YAML configuration. I will let you know in which point properties beats YAML with respect to Spring. But memory point of view, or performance point of view, there is no difference of using these two. Okay. So properties file looks something like this. Okay, so properties file looks something like this. If you want to configure an environment information, right? So a dev has a different URL, dev has a different name, production has a different URL, production has a different name. Then you always say environments.dev.url, environments.dev.name, environments.prod.url, environments.prod. But when it goes to the YAML configuration, the things won't be like this, right? You have a tree structure here, right? Parent child tree structure here. So you first specify environments. So now environment has two childs. One is dev and another one is prod, right? So you say dev and another one is prod. Okay. And again, dev has two childs, URL and name. So you create two tags. One is URL and another one is name. Again, the prod also has two tags, URL and name. So this is how we do write YAML configuration. So when you write YAML configuration, you notice some kind of tree structure, okay, right? But when you write properties configuration, right, no tree structure, nothing. It's just like straightforward key value pair, right? This is the key and this is the value, straightforward. But when it is coming to the YAML, so again it's a key value pair only, but we have a tree structure. Right? You don't type environment for multiple times, right? You don't type dev for two times, right? You just type environment for one time, and you do configure two childs to environment. One is dev and another one is a prod. And again, for dev we have two properties, URL and name. So you don't type dev two times here. But when it is coming to the properties, every time you have to write. For example, you have 10 properties in dev, then you have to type dev for 10 times. But when it goes to a YAML file configuration, we do create a structure, right? So dev will be configured only one time. The 10 remaining sub properties will be configured. Okay, so this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. And whenever you save a properties file, then you must give an extension saying the dot properties, right? So if the properties name like env, right? So you say env dot properties. If it is YAML file configuration, then you save with it with the extension called YML, right? YAML. So the extensions are difficult. So by looking into the file name itself, you can say whether it is a properties file or YAML file. Okay. Yes. So this is all about the difference between YAML file and properties file. So you could use anything, the one which you feel comfortable. Okay. Now it's time to learn how does Spring Boot supports this YAML file and Spring Boot supports this properties file. Okay. So there is a default properties and YAML support is available from Spring Boot, right? If any file, if you name like application.properties or application.yaml, right? Application.properties or application.yaml, then this file will automatically loaded into your Spring Boot application. Right? If any file which has this name, right, application.properties or application.yaml, then that file will automatically loaded when that file has kept in these corresponding locations, right? So the first place is in the current folder. Yes, src main Java folder. If you are keeping, then it will be loaded. Or any class path. It can be src main Java, src main resources, src test Java, src test resources. But in the project, we don't do like that. Okay, where we will keep all our configuration, we will keep inside src main resources folder. SRC main resources folder. So here is the place where we keep all our application related configuration. So if you keep any file with application.properties or application.yaml, then that file will automatically loaded. You don't need to instruct Spring to load this configuration file like properties or YAML. Spring will automatically load the properties into Spring application, right? Spring Boot application. So I already wrote all these examples. What I will do, I just close all these projects and let me import the properties file project file import. If you wanted to load existing, if you wanted to import existing Maven project into Eclipse, just go to file, click on import, just go to existing, right? Type Maven, existing Maven projects, just click next. So where is the existing Maven project is presented? So that is presented inside my E drive, Spring Boot core workspace. So here is a project which talks about properties. Let's select the form.xml file, click on finish. Then Eclipse will take a while to import the project into your package explorer. Okay, so here I already wrote yeah, some existing properties file. So I'm going to start with this application dot properties. Okay, so we don't want to start with this complicated example. Let's go ahead and do a simple, very simple example. So I just give a simple message, right? Welcome message. I want to load this welcome message. So I'll just move this back. I'll rename the another application dot properties, right? So configuration, yeah, application hyphen configuration dot properties, and this backup I will just put back to application dot properties. Okay, so if your resources folder, application main resources folder, has any application dot properties or application dot yaml, then this configuration will be automatically loaded into your Spring Boot application. So it's loaded, but how do I get that configuration? How do I get that configuration? So this is the key, this is the value. If I give this key, then that value, right, this value will be printed on the console. Then what should I do? I should go to src main java, right? To load that message into my Java application, I should use at value annotation, and give dollar curly braces. Whatever the key you configured in the properties file, you can give that key here, right? Whatever the key you configured in the properties file, you can configure here. Then this message, right? Hey friends, welcome to Spring Boot features, right? This message will be loaded automatically into this message, right? This message. So what I will do, I just remove this field, and I will print this message on the console here, right? System data, yeah. So welcome message, and this is the welcome message. So let's mark this as static, just because static should be accessed inside static, right? So let's make this as static. Now tell me guys, if I run this code, what is the output? Can you guys tell me what is the output we're gonna get if I run this code?
We should see the welcome message.
Right, so welcome message, some
Let's
space, yeah. Hey friends, welcome to the Spring Boot. I got only one response. What about others? Sharath, Hari, Abhiram, Chintesh, Jagadish, Jupudi, Uchi. I don't know who answered that, but I'm asking others. Yeah, Sharath pinged me, right? So I'm going to ping this URL here itself. Um, here is the URL. So by using that, you can generate your ASCII art. Yeah. Yeah, let's come back. What is the output, guys? Are you just looking at my screen or doing some other thing? What is the output we're gonna get?
Welcome to Spring features. That message, whatever is there in the properties file.
Okay. The 2 responses I got. What about others? We have 8 people, right? So 8 must answer. Then I can think, oh, eight people are looking at my screen.
So do we need any annotation to say that properties needs to be used here, like add
All right.
properties something?
That is what I'm telling, right? Defaultly, application properties file will be loaded. You don't need to say anything. Any configuration you keep inside application.properties file, and if it is a Spring Boot application, all the properties will be loaded. We no need to do any extra configuration. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what is output, guys? When I said 8 people, one guy dropped.
Welcome message.
Okay, now we have 7. Okay, welcome message will be printed on the console, right? So let's do check that. Right click, run as Java application. So we do expect that there is some welcome message printed, but all of a sudden, what happened? The welcome message is not printed, right? The welcome message is not printed. We got some kind of exception, right? What is that? Spring application? No, not this. Yeah, so there is some kind of exception we got. Let me build the project. Maybe some build error. Let's try this out. If still we get the same error, then I will explain you, right? So we expected some output, but that output was not printing, right? So what is the cause? You know, the problem is, does anybody has experience on the JavaScript?
Yes.
Okay, so you do call back, right? You do some callback, and in that callback you might have seen some kind of data which is not getting populated, right? So it's like executing, right? JavaScript engine is getting executed, but the data might not be available, right? So some kind of issue you would have been faced, right? Why
Yeah.
it is, it's
Not
just,
loaded. Yeah.
yeah,
Something. Object not available. Kind of.
yeah, right. So the same kind of problem which is happening here, just because now our application is loading asynchronously, right? Now our application is loading asynchronously. So there is something which is executing Spring application run in the background, right? So there is something which is executing Spring application dot run in the background. In between, main thread is executing this welcome message, right? Now things are happening parallelly. So now there is no guarantee that in my main method I should always get that the data is ready, right? So when you are running any time, right? So for example, you might have auto white something, right? So you cannot guarantee that that bean is ready in your main method in the next coming code, right? So there is a problem because now the things are working asynchronously. By defaultly, the things are working asynchronously. So that's why, but then you can ask me till now, then how I am achieving it? Because you are controlling that asynchronous by assigning this to an application context, right? You just do application context. So so now you are blocking your main thread to until this Spring dot application is running. But when you don't assign it and you are not interacting with application context, then your main thread will not be blocked. It is going to execute this statement simultaneously, right? So this is started at the same time. Simultaneously we are executing system.out.println, right? So these two things are happening simultaneously. So I cannot guarantee you that welcome message is ready at the time of executing. Our main thread is executing this code. I cannot guarantee you that your welcome message is ready, right? So whenever you want to print any message or you want to process anything in your main method, never ever do that. It's a very, very bad programming practice, right? So make sure your main method will always have only one statement, right? Your main method will always have a one statement, which is that Spring application dot run. Other than this, you should not have to add anything, right? So till now, whatever we are doing, application context dot get bean, that is not a good programming practice. We don't do that in the real time. Okay, so in your main method you always have Spring application dot run. Yes, then how should I print this welcome message, right? You said it is not available and you're not supposed to write in the main method. Then what is the other method? Then where should I start my application? right? I want to print this message in a standalone approach, then what should I do? What is the approach I should follow, right? So when you get this kind of problem, right, so don't use main method to print any data. So you should implement, what is that, implement command line runner. So there is a predefined interface is available to print some data, right, outside of this main method, right? Yeah, just implement add unimplemented methods. Now you just print that message. Now you just print that message inside this run method. Now the data will be available. So run method, when it will be getting executed? After your Spring Boot application fully initialized, right? After your Spring Boot application is fully initialized, then your run method will be executed. So don't run any code inside your inside your main method other than this snippet. Okay. Now let's run the code. For sure, you'll get some message printed on the console. Welcome hyphen message. Welcome hyphen message. Is the key say welcome hyphen message? Yeah. Okay. Let's run again. Why the properties file is not loading? Application dot properties. Yes, it's correct. Application dot properties. When I go to Spring Boot application, okay. So the problem is with the child properties. The problem is with the child folder. So what I will do, I'll just give a different name here, right? So we have multiple examples, right? So I just go and mark this as basic. Yeah, this is a very basic example. Just I go and mark this as basic. Okay, now just go ahead and change this to a different folder structure and just run the code, right? Yeah, right click, run as Java application. Now see, the message is getting printed. Welcome message, welcome message. It's not value, yes. The key is matching and the name is application.properties file. Okay. Yeah. The problem I found, it's static, right? Not supposed to be static. Yes. Now see, the message is getting printed, right? The message is getting printed. If you wanted to print this message in the main method, you have to make it static. So at the time of class loading, your static variable will be initialized. At the time of that, your container is not ready, so message will not be populated, right? Message will not be populated. So if I just mark static, so inside your main method, right? Inside your main method, if you access this, right, what will happen? The string right here. Yeah, inside your main method, if you try to access, the null will be printed. So it is not supposed to be static. It's supposed to be an instance variable. It's supposed to be an instance variable. If I run this, null will be printed, right? So static variables will not be loaded, right, by Spring. So it's supposed to be an instance variable, and you cannot access it inside main method, right? Inside main method, and inside your main method, right? Inside your main method, you have to have only one line of code. If you wanted to print anything extra, that's supposed to be a command line runner, implements command line runner, and that code has to be kept inside run method. That code has to be kept inside run method, and you just run this. Okay, so this is what is a dependency injection way of doing the things. If you just do application context mean, that is not a good programming practice, right? So that is a dependency lookup way of doing the things, right? Here we are not doing any context.getBean, right? Context.getBean. So this is not dependency lookup code. This is the dependency injection code. But there is some problem. What is that? Can somebody guess? Ari, Chintesh, Sharath, Jupudi, Venkat, Viji, there is some problem.
Improvements is not a good practice.
Exactly, right? This is what we are discussing in since like 2 to 3 days. don't use implements, don't use extend. Then when I am doing implements, then you would have been asking. You only said this is a bad programming practice, and again you are doing it and asking us to do. Then what is the best coding practice? What I am going to learn? If I do this in the real time project, then did you guys, if you're going to do this in your project in your company, you get recognized. Does people call you a Spring expert? No, right? They'll think that, oh, you copy pasted somewhere, right? This is not the good programming practice. Never implement any interface, never extend any class, right? So just remove this. Then after removing this, how can I execute this run method? If I remove implements command line runner, then how can I run this method? How can I process, right? So then you can ask me, Sunil, what is this, right? First, you said use run method, and you said it's not a good programming practice. Then second, you said implements command line runner. Now you are telling implements command line runner also not good programming practice. Then what is the standard? What is the real time approach to print a message or to process something, right? Remove this entire code. Okay, I'll take you to some next level, right? Next level, yeah. Write a method which returns an object of command line runner. Okay, command line runner, and method name can be anything. Just give a meaningful name. Just mark it as start, right? Start after Spring application initialization. Okay, so you don't need to give this much big name, as we already know this method will execute after Spring initialization. Just give a small name called start. Okay, inside this you just implement command line runner anonymous functionality, right? New return new command line runner, right? Anonymous inner class. Inside this you print the message. Inside this you print the message, right? Welcome message, and you print it. Okay, this is what is the standard. This is what is the standard. Okay, system.out.println welcome message is printed. What is the problem? Sorry, it's not welcome icon message, it's a welcome message. Yeah. Okay. Now the error gone. Yeah, so this is how we should execute it, right? No implementing command line interface, right? No implementing command line runner interface. So this is how we should do. But after doing this, just add at the bean. So now the start method will be executed next immediate to your application container is ready. So just run this. Now we will get the same output whatever we got it in the last time. Okay, so this is what is the standard, but this code is not looking like it was written by some expertise, right? Java expert. This is looking like, oh, this is written by somebody who has who is new to Java, right? This is not the way of Java 8 writing. At least I could say Java 8, not the Java 8 way of doing the things. Then what should we do? If I wanted to convert this into a Java 8 format, I should convert this
Lambda
into
function.
lambda expression, right?
Sunil,
Yeah.
at the rate bean means bean initially it will create the beans, right? At the time of container start.
Yes. Okay. So now
So
what
but
is,
yours
yeah, what is going to happen? So we are just creating like any other bean, right? So command line runner, I'm just configuring like any other bean, but Spring container will treat this command line runner bean separately. So yeah, this is going to be created first. So there is a bean created for command line runner, yes. But after bean creation, the container fully ready. If the command line runner bean available, then it will run that command line runner implementation. Yes, the first step is this is a bean, correct? But after that, after bean creation and process everything, this bean is going to be executed. If this bean is configured, the bean is going to be executed, which means the run method is going to be executed after initialization.
okay, Sunil.
Okay, so yeah, this is configured like any other bean in a developer point of view, but in a container life cycle, if is there any is there any bean configured, right, type command line runner, that bean will be executed next immediate to the container ready. So now let's convert this into an anonymous inner class. So remove this snippet implementation, remove override, remove the method name, signature, access modifier, right, method name, return type, access modifier, right, and keep just one arrow, right, remove throws exception also, keep one arrow between these parameters and implementation. And here we are passing only one argument, then specifying the parenthesis also completely optional, right, completely optional. And our lambda expression body is also like only one line, so you can remove those curly braces, right. So this is how you should write your command line implementation, command line runner. Okay, so this is equivalent to implements command line runner, implements command line runner and overriding run method. Okay, but that is not a right. So yeah, so this is a bad practice, right, implements command line runner, and this is a bad practice. Okay, so instead of doing that, configure command line runner implementation as a bean that will be executed automatically by your container after your container is ready, right. So never implement any interfaces, never implement any interfaces. Okay, so this is how we should run, right? This is how we should run. So two things we learn. One is defaultly your application dot properties will be loaded. Yes, we are not doing any configuration, right? Any configuration we are not doing. So just simply we are loading this message into our Spring application. Yes, it is working fine. And the second thing is never ever write any code apart from Spring application dot run in main method. Okay. But I got a doubt, guys, right? Just looking into this code, and no, this is the perfect code. This is what you have to do in your project. Okay. On top of this, I'm not telling you to do anything extra. Just kind of suggestion to the Spring team itself, right? Can you give any suggestion to the Spring team by looking into this code? Is there any improvisation Spring can do? Not a developer. Spring can do.
They should provide some implementation.
No. Everybody, can you guys try? Look at that main method. Okay, now let's narrow down. Look at that main method. Any suggestion can you give it to Spring people? Okay,
Even if it is a default properties, you should load it.
it's loading already. Application that properties is loading. They are already doing it. Okay.
Yeah, but we are not explicitly mentioning anywhere, right?
No, that support is there. If you want to load a different properties file, not specific to properties actually, yes. So my doubt is every time, right? Now actually is the correct time to talk about, right? Now we said, oh, this is the only line we have to keep all the time. Okay. So why should we run this? Why should we configure this main method? Can't why Spring do that? So I'm annotating this class with a Spring Boot application. This is my primary class, right? And if I remove this, why can't the Spring do that for us? Why should I run a main method, and why should I configure Spring application.run? Why can't Spring consider whatever the class which you annotated with Spring Boot, that is the main class, and you go and start from there? Why should we write this code? This is an extra burden to the developer, right? In every Spring Boot application writing a main method, it's an unwanted thing. What is going to be changed? The thing is which is going to be changed. For example, if you are writing 10 Spring Boot applications, right? 10 Spring Boot applications, then what is going to be changed? This primary class is going to be changed. Anyway, you are annotating your primary class with a Spring Boot application. Then why you need to configure that? Why you are writing these 3 lines of code in your primary class? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I got it. It is like repetitive task, like only
Yeah.
configuration.
Yeah, why can't Spring people itself can take care about this? Why we are configuring? Why we are writing even this one line of code? writing a main method and passing the primary class. Annotation itself, by configuring the annotation itself, we are indicating to the Spring saying that this is my primary class, right? And again, one more time, I'm writing the main method and configuring, okay, you just start from here. Why should we do that? If when I say at Spring Boot application, when I say Spring Boot application, then they can consider this is the starting point. Okay. But anyway, that feature is not available, right? It's a suggestion from my end. Yeah, we will send an email to Spring people. Okay. So why you are asking this to do this, right? We will send an email, no problem, right? We can give a suggestion, right? So they are why you are asking unwantedly developer. Then they might say there are multiple classes can be annotated with Spring Boot. Yeah, then there are multiple main methods also can be written, right? If developer is doing that intentionally, you can't do anything, right? So you throw some exception saying that there are multiple Spring Boot applications are configured. Yeah, in one microservices, we mostly have one application with Spring Boot application. Then it's unwanted, right? You just do this for us. You just take care about that writing the code. I directly write a command line runner or RESTful web services based on my requirement. Right? That can be done. Anyway, we will send an email to Spring people. We'll see what they're going to respond. You get what I'm trying to explain? That is outside of our course. Anyway, that is not there at this point of time. Okay. I don't know. We'll just check it out. Okay. We'll just check it out. If I wanted to run this as a main method application, I cannot do that. Right. Main method application, I cannot do it. But anyway, they can do it. Right. They can take care of it. But yeah, you have to do it now. Maybe in the upcoming releases, they may remove it, right? They may listen our request and they may do some changes. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll check that. We'll send an email, no doubt at all. We'll ask Spring people to do those changes. Why they are asking the developer to do the duplicate configuration that we don't understand. We'll check that later. But now you have to write the main method. There is no other until the Spring come up with a solution to avoid this configuration. Okay. Any more questions?
Sunil, I have a question. Like,
Yeah.
please go ahead. Yeah, you please go ahead.
Yeah.
In our real-time applications, I have never seen this command line runner start in the Spring Boot applications. Though we are using application.properties, right? I have never seen writing this start method.
That is our next level.
Command liner.
Whenever you start writing at REST controller, we don't need, because now we don't have server, right? We don't have server and still we want to execute something with the main method. That's why you don't see. But once we jump into the module level, then you don't need command line runner. You do write controller request method. Right? So that is a difference. Yeah, there we have server. But if you don't have server and still you wanted to do this, right, main method, then you have to do right command line. So just I don't want you to get confused. Maybe in some applications they do use command line runner, right? After seeing that, you're not supposed to think, hey, I went for training and I pay something and that guy not covered, right? So you're not supposed to feel that way. That's why I'm just covering this, right? Even in RESTful web services also, you can configure command line runner if you want to execute immediate to your Spring container ready, right? So any configuration you wanted to do, yes, you can do it by using command line runner. But we will execute it next immediate to your application ready, Spring container ready. Then next immediately the starting point, and we are not going to call the start method, right? So this is going to be called automatically by the Spring container itself.
Okay.
Yeah, someone is trying to ask some other question.
Yeah, Sunil, in Spring application, like in Eclipse editor, like, do we have any code formatting tool, or like any best practice, something like that?
Yeah, code formatting can be selected and just do Control-Shift-F. Okay, this is the default format. But actually, in the actual companies, the standardized IT companies, they have their own code formatting rules like XML files, right? So what you have to do, just go to Window Preferences under Java code style formatter, right? Yeah, this is the default. You just have to import their own XML file, right? So you just click on the import, and you have to select their company specific rules and regulations. But if it is not provided, then you just select this and just do Control Shift F, then the code will be formatted by the default standard of Eclipse. But it can be overridden. So this is what you have to do. Window, Preferences, go to Java, Formatter. If any company is providing their own XMLs, right? So not the Eclipse built-in, you can still do that. Okay, just go and import that particular XML file, and you have to give any name. Okay, so right now I'm just okay with the Eclipse default. That's why we are not doing that. Just anything you want to format, just to select that Control Shift F formatting, right? So,
like my question is for JavaScript, there are so many like Google and everybody is like publishing their linking rules, right? So like that for Java, anything is there.
no, that's what Eclipse. Whatever the Eclipse has, that is enough for Java.
Okay.
Okay, well, whatever Eclipse has, that is enough. Because in JavaScript, I will tell you why that is happening for JavaScript. Because JavaScript, we have so many IDEs, right? So we don't have any standard, right? If you check for Java, like 60 to 70% of the companies use Eclipse, mostly, right? Remaining 20 to 30% is they use IntelliJ IDE, right? This one, IntelliJ IDE. Again, this has its own code formatting, right? IntelliJ IDE. And some people use STS. STS is nothing but another flavor of Eclipse, right?
Yeah.
Whatever we have in Eclipse, you get the same thing in STS. So, and yeah, some people use Java provided IDE, right? I forget the name itself. One second, let me check in the Google. Very rare. Like not even 1%, 2% we will use that, right? Java IDEs. So you get the list here. See here itself, it is not Eclipse is the top. NetBeans, yeah, NetBeans.
NetBeans,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very rare. Not even 1-2% people use it. Okay, so that's why we do use Eclipse. Eclipse standard is the default standard. On top of that, you want to build anything, then it can be configured, but that is very rare scenario. So
I see in Java projects only, like I'm finding a lot of code conflicts because of like there are no standard rules may be there, but no like published formats are there. Like if it is like earlier I worked in like TypeScript projects. There like it is strictly like compiled, and we have command line tools which so like we never seen code conflicts mostly.
Yeah, TypeScript is different, right? So again, TypeScript will be compiled into JavaScript. So that's why we have this.
TypeScript is nothing but JavaScript, like same coding standards.
Yeah, advanced version like OOPS concept, object-oriented JavaScript, like that we can consider. But browser can't understand TypeScript, right? Again, that has to be converted into JavaScript. That's why we
as far as like because of the basic linting issue, whenever we are like somebody is providing space between like here the start and for every curly braces there should be a space should be there. These of rules basically.
Yeah, those rules not required. Here you provide whatever the space you want to put it in the next line.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Actually, that is the reason. Like conflicts will happen. Right?
No, it's like a formatting, right? You just once you do all these things and just do a formatting, that is fine. You no need to worry about these spaces and all, because in JavaScript, why we are too much in worrying about is because we do generate a compressed version, right? In Java, we don't have something like this, right? So we do load that compressed. And why we do compressed? Because whenever you are loading into JavaScript, right? JavaScript will load the complete file, right, into memory. Java doesn't do that, right? How Java executes the program? Because Java internally use interpreter, right? Interpretation.
Yeah.
So Java won't load the complete file into the memory. So it executes line by line. It executes line by line, and right, interpret the line by line. That interpreted code will be loaded into the memory. But in JavaScript, the execution model is different, right? So it loads the entire file into the memory. So if any spaces and all, it occupies the more memory. That's why we do compress and we load the compress. But in Java, nothing like that. right? So you just compile it, but still the compiled file won't be loaded in one go. Java execute line by line, right? Java execute that line by line. While executing, it uses interpretation. So it internally a different algorithm, Java in-time compiler, right? So there are so many things are there in the background. So Java loads line by line, executes line by line. So that's why you won't worry about all these spaces and all. Okay. So JVM treats these things differently. So there is no problem how many spaces you are giving in the Java code, right? So it won't worry about it. At runtime, memory point of view, performance point of view, just because you are giving extra 2 lines, there is no extra space will be allocated, nothing like that. So it's a more virtual, more dynamic thing, not like Java.
Yeah, true. It is.
Okay, any more questions? Somebody bring something in the chat. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we will close for today. Okay, tomorrow we will continue the same concept, right? We just started today. And the basic fundamental we completed, right? Whatever we discussed is a basic. We gonna discuss like so many advanced things, right? And how to pass a different files. We will continue those things tomorrow. Tomorrow, same time, 8:15 sharp, guys. Okay, thank you. Thank you, team. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.